Hello, and welcome to It's Already In You podcast. We are your hosts, Liz
and Janine, nutrition and movement experts, mothers and business owners, obsessed with helping you quiet the noise of diet culture.
Seeing through the false advertising and promises of our food and fitness industries, helping you discover that everything you need to upgrade your health and well-being is already in you. Hey guys, we are coming at you in the month of December, but this episode really applies to whenever you need it or listen to it. I only say December because we are using the holidays a little bit as our topic, or the celebrations and socialization that comes around the holidays, and maybe our habits and stuff that can change or be impacted. But honestly, any time of year, vacations, summers, times where your regular schedule isn't quite so regular and maybe there's a little more celebration, there's some positive uptick. Or maybe sometimes it is the opposite. Maybe there is some more stress and maybe there is some more low feelings, and you find that that impacts the way you eat or how you move your body, or just in general, like how you're caring for yourself. And so today's episode, we want to focus on, or we want to talk about how one, that is a reality and we get that. And number two, some things that you can do and maybe some perspective shifts that you can make that don't seem like, oh my God, I'm like doing all this, or I'm missing out, or I'm not able to celebrate, or like you guys, like you don't get it, like we do. And so to share some of those things that you can maybe do or make some different choices while still really being in the moment, and being in the moment while still taking care of yourself, your immune system, your mental health, your physical health. So there's not that I'll do it in January and February type of mindset. So what do you often see this time of year, Janine, when it comes to habits?
So I was going to say, like, the things that, like, not only, and you sort of touched on this just with that opening, is that like the stress and the hustle and the bustle of this time of year. And I feel like anxiety is much higher and depression is more, and, mental health is being affected. And then when that happens, obviously, like, we tend to, you want to go home, you want to lie on the couch and curl up in a blanket and watch Netflix. You want to not meal prep. You want to not meal plan. So, and then in a combination of that, you have the holiday parties, the, constant out and socialization, like you said. So, it's just like
perfect storm.
Perfect storm.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's just so much. And I like am in it right now. I feel it. Like, I feel like, oh my goodness, kids coming home from school and break is coming, and is your shopping done, and is your all the things, and worrying about the stuff that you can't do and the stuff that you have to do and all of those things. And I feel like even in our lives, the things that we are so consistent with and so concerned with get sort of pushed to the back burner a lot. And I feel like we can't take the mindset of beating ourselves up or, calling ourselves out on not being able to keep up in these times. We just have to not focus on the January 1st or the start next week or the start next month. We have to focus on every choice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if we make a not so good one in 1 hour, we have the next choice to make, or the next meal, or the next day that we can go back to whatever we're going to do. And I think if we take that mindset and we start reeling it back in and not getting so concerned with, okay, well, I just basically ruined my health, so I might as well, go down that crazy slide of like, all right, I'm going to drink every day and eat bad every day, and I'm just going to not exercise until New Year, right? Because we're missing so many opportunities to not slide down that slide and ruin what we've built up, or not ruin it, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, not have to like climb back up this ladder. We can stay halfway up the ladder and just help ourselves to not go down all of the steps of the ladder. What are those things that I'm trying to say?
Tiers, steps, tiers,
it's rungs, or
Yes.
I don't know. But I'm just picturing this ladder because I speak to this a lot when people are like starting a workout program or starting nutrition or starting wellness, and they feel like, it's up one and then it's down three,
Yes, a couple steps forward, a couple steps back, kind of that game.
Yeah, and I always say, don't look at it that way, right?
Yeah.
But start to think like you got to try not to fall back, especially when you're just starting to get on that ladder,
Sure.
right? Keep climbing so that when you get to the top or when you get close to the top and you have a bad day or you don't work out because you're not feeling well or you're just not in the mood, you're only dropping down a couple of those tiers, like you said, rather than this back down to the bottom and having to climb all the way back up. And I think that's where we are during the holiday season, especially right before New Year's, because New Year's seems to be the embedded in our brain, like my new life starts on January 1st.
Yeah.
Right? Or for some people, like I don't do that to myself. I'm like, no, it's going to be January 2nd. Because January 1st, I still want to drink the mimosa and eat where all the leftovers
curl
from
up
the
on the
night
couch
before.
or whatever. Yeah.
It's like my last day.
Yeah.
Last day to do whatever. But in thinking that way, we need to sort of remember that isn't a magical day that's going to change
our lives.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I mean, a lot of this is what we have been taught and conditioned to think. And then, thinking like we deserve this time, this, month of, or some people it's from like, Halloween to whatever, or Thanksgiving to New Year's, but we deserve this. We work hard and, I'm going to resist restriction or whatever. And I challenge you and I encourage you to think about it differently, because what are you, resisting, or what do you deserve? You don't deserve to feel like crap. You don't deserve to feel like your belly is grumbly and your skin, and you don't feel great when you put on your clothes and all of that. Like, that's not a reward for your hard work and maybe a little extra time off or whatever during the holidays.
Right.
And so going into the holidays, and the weeks ahead, it doesn't need to be an all or nothing. You don't need to just, go off the rails and say, I'm just letting myself enjoy all of this stuff, when in reality, a lot of those decisions end up making you not feel great. But you can enjoy maybe a little bit more than you normally do. And if you're taking care of yourself along the way, if you go out and indulge in a dinner, but the next day, not January 1st, December 17th, you get up and you have a good breakfast and you go out for a walk and you do that, one night is not going to make a big difference.
Right.
And you can, in that night, feel good about it. Not that you were bad, that I, had a couple cocktails or that I had some dessert and that was that moment. It's not the next day and the next day and the next day. And I think that is something that to me is really freeing, to know that 1, 2, 3 days of maybe indulgent or things that, I normally wouldn't do, that I can actually enjoy those moments. And know that I'm committed to the next day getting up and doing what is best for me and my body, and ultimately makes me feel the best as you move through this season. So I think like going in with that perspective of that it's not restrictive, it's not all or nothing, that I think that can invite you to find a place that can enjoy the things. Maybe it's the cookies that your grandmother brings over or whatever, the espresso martinis or whatever it might be, without really self-sabotaging. Because remember, and we've talked about this plenty, is that it's our personal responsibility. And so if it is important for you to feel good, to feel healthy, to support your immune system, to feel energetic, to sleep well, like those choices are ultimately going to come from the foods that you put into your body, good or bad, the way you move your body and how you try to manage some of your stress. That is a black and white fact. And so knowing that, let it empower you. Let it empower you to make that next right decision and enjoy maybe some things that are not regular for you the majority of the year.
Yeah. And I think that our listeners too, from the education that they've received from our past episodes about food and food choices and what's going on in the food system, like for me, when I go out and it's a an event and I know that everything there I'm not going to really want to eat or I wouldn't put in my mouth because of certain reasons.
Yeah.
I tend to I will give myself the opportunity to make something or that's like fun or that I know that I'm going to miss out on because it's not going to be the ingredients that I would eat or, so in thinking that way, you're making better than choices all the time, right? You're trying to make the choices that you're going to receive well, that are going to do better for your body and your health, for your sleep, for your stress, especially during this time, right? So I think too, some of our listeners that have gotten that education and that they've gone beyond that now and that they're starting to bring something with them when they go to a party or that they're, looking at what's there and they're making the best possible choice out of what's there. That's going to help in
totally
how they're feeling when they leave that party too, and you were saying before that the tips that we can give people I think are so important about, if you're going to go out, and I've been saying this to the kids since they were little, if we go out to dinner and if we're going to flatbread and you're going to get a root beer, which is a natural root beer, and I hate when my kids get soda.
Yeah.
But it was the once in a while treat that if they were at flatbread, they could have this main root, right?
Yeah.
But if you choose that, you're not going to get dessert.
Yeah.
And I even do that with myself. You know what I mean? If I'm going to have a sandwich because I'm craving this whatever sandwich for breakfast, I'm not going to have that bread in the afternoon or for dinner. I'm going to make my choices so that there's a little bit less of the starchiness and more of the vegetables and nutrients, right?
Yeah.
So thinking that way and finding ways that you can decrease the amount of calories that are coming in, increase the nutrients still, but still finding that balance to, like you said, not have the fun or
feel restricted or because sometimes then that bounces back at you and bites you because then you completely are do all the things. And so if you know that there's a space in the middle or, that you can enjoy some different, things outside of your regular routine for a short time period while maintaining how you feel and your daily practices. Because remember, you guys, what we do day in, day out is what teaches our body. We teach our body the foods to crave. Yeah. We teach our body that it's I need to exercise or I need fresh air. Or I need to really focus on stretching because I know what it feels like to be tight. Whatever that is for you. And on the flip side, we also teach it to be lazy or sedentary if that's what we're doing the majority of the time. We teach it to grab sugars and caffeines and all of that stuff when we need energy. And so if you are making the choice to work really, really hard, and maybe it isn't even not that hard anymore, maybe it's just kind of lifestyle choices for you, and maybe for some of us it is harder, to try to teach our body the things that it needs to make it thrive and be healthy. And then all of a sudden it's one day you're I'm going to teach it something different consistently for the next 4, 6, 8 weeks. Well, then it is going to be really challenging, like you said, with that ladder to find your momentum to come back up. And it is even that much more challenging to find it in January and February in the heart of New England winter when it's dark and it's cold. And those kind of intentions of picking it back up often in that middle winter is really hard once you fall off because you don't have nature, you don't have the good vibes of sun and fresh air and all that stuff to kind of push you along. And so let's talk about some tips that we can give and that we, I think, also use ourselves that can support you guys through these next couple weeks and on, really, whenever you need them. And I'll go. One of the ones that I always do, and you kind of mentioned it, is that I am known to bring charcuterie boards to any gatherings or always have them because I want to have munchy foods, or I don't want to be the person standing there being why aren't you eating? Why aren't you eating? Because
Yeah.
one, I want to eat. Two,
Yeah.
that's nobody's point is not to eat. But also I recognize that it's social and to have like a spread and munch. So I always make sure that, there are things on that, vegetables and hummus and quality crackers and, things like that I feel like fruits and, olives and nuts and all those things that I know are real and whole and that I feel comfortable munching on. And usually when I do that, people are so appreciative. Like there's other people there that are like, oh my God, like I also feel like these are good options for me. So it's not only for me, I like to be able to like share that with other people. So whatever that is for you, whether it's a salad or some sort of like baked dish for Thanksgiving, I did a dairy-free, gluten-free. I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, like pumpkin type of bread, and brought it to 2 different places. And people were like, oh my gosh, like this is so good. And that's the cool thing. And then I was like, well, I didn't know it's dairy-free, gluten-free. I didn't know if people would like it. And people were eating it all up. And so that's a cool thing to show people also.
Yes.
If it's important to you, maybe you can share some of that.
Yeah, and I'm going to give a couple people shout outs right now, and they didn't pay us.
Yes,
there's no sponsorships on our podcast, but I just recently had a sip and chop at the studio, and Snacks by Jax is on Instagram. She's a local Melrose woman. She and I'm saying this because, if you go out and you order a charcuterie board or you want those charcuterie cups for when people come to your parties, or I want you to remember that you can always ask for the type of ingredients that you want. Most people will do that. And I think that we don't think like that. We think, I'm going to order this and I have to take whatever they give me. And, I want it to be that way because I'm doing this for 50 people. But to me, the more we support the organic and the natural and the whole foods, that is going to help us to make those foods cheaper and more I just lost my words. More available to us, right? So I asked Jackie, who owns Snacks by Jax, I was like, I really don't want the traditional charcuterie board. I'd like veggies and, like you said, olives and organic. And if you're going to do any meats, like non-GMO, grass-fed, And I gave her what I wanted. She said, absolutely, I'll do that. And if you saw the way these cups looked and how cute she made them, and she did little dips and she put them inside with carrot sticks and broccolini, and it just was pretty. It was beautiful, and everyone loved it. And anyway, a tip would be if you're gonna bring something and you don't make it, you find the baker that uses ingredients that are conscious and, that they're responsible and that they're using better ingredients, and you can identify everything that's in them. And the better that you can do with supporting those businesses, like Kim Gregory owns Pure Pastry, and she makes the most unbelievable, and they're dairy-free and they're gluten-free. But not only that, they're organic and made from her heart and with love, and they are by far the best pastries that I've ever had in my life. So you can make those choices. And again, is it great to eat pastry all day, every day? No. But the tip would be, if you're going to, choose the better option, better and quality. Bring the option. And
I think that's it. I think that's important, because if you're going to BJ's and getting a charcuterie board, it's going to be basically cheese. Yeah, I feel like when people bring them, and you're just like, there's a lot of cheese on this plate,
processed meat and cheese.
Yes, and not a lot of color, a lot of whites and oranges and stuff. Another tip I would say is, you're going out. Sometimes you're going out to dinners and a little more structured eating versus just, when it's open party, you have a little more freedom to pick and choose. It's not so focused on what is this person eating. One thing that I tell clients and also myself is I usually do the pick one, kind of like you said with your daughters and the root beer, is that no one's going to feel great having an appetizer, having cocktails, having a dinner, and then having dessert after. That's just a lot for the system. And so I will have my dinner and probably, break it in half or whatever, but have my dinner of choice and then usually pick one. So picking, am I going to have a few, bites or a small plate of the appetizers? Am I going to have a cocktail or two? Am I going to have the dessert? And having one is realistic that, this is not going to send my system that I've taught the majority of the time to eat real whole foods over the edge, right? Yeah. And then if you enjoy that variety, if you feel like you want to enjoy appetizers or desserts or whatever, obviously you can have a few bites of each. Next time you go out, you can have sparkling water and enjoy the appetizers. And so that's where I'm like, there is personal responsibility. Yes. I get that might sound good or it's like everything might look good in the moment, but that's just not, our body's just not going to receive all of that. And knowing that a lot of it is high sugar, a lot of it is high gluten, there's dairy. We all know what it feels like to wake up after overindulging, and doing that a number of times over a short period of time is just not a great recipe. So taking a little personal responsibility and also enjoying in kind of that like pick one, I think can feel empowering.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think another tip too is we go through these holidays with, seeing people we haven't seen in a while, and everything is always, socialization is now in America, it's all about food. It's all about gathering together and eating or drinking or eating and drinking, yeah. Right? And typically we're not moving. We're just standing there or sitting there and doing that. I think if you can, if you're going to see somebody that you haven't seen in a while and you're making plans and, instead of saying, let's meet for coffee and let's meet for a drink or let's meet for a bite, like let's meet and go for a walk.
Yeah.
And I know it's cold out but maybe you meet at the mall and you walk the mall and you get to see that person and you get some quality time, and it's not everything you're doing is about food and drinking, because it adds up every day. And going back to what we were saying at the beginning, if you make the better choice the next time you get to make a choice, or even the next day, then all these things are not going to add up and be as detrimental to you, or, but if you let all these things add up, after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, it's 5 pounds, it's 10 pounds, it's
getting sick.
Yeah. You feel like crap. It's not sleeping, it's stressing, it's more anxiety, it's more depression, it's,
Yeah.
So the cycle, you can break that cycle by saying, okay, like, again, I'm going to choose one, or I'm going to, I know that this weekend's going to be a fun party weekend, so my week following this is going to be like a real structured exercise and make better choice week, right? Like you can really reel it in and think about what your choices are going to be.
Yeah. I would say something similar to that, is that when you are having more celebrations and maybe overindulging a little bit here or there, or going, picking choices that you normally don't pick, that's an opportunity to actually strengthen the communication that you give to your body. So you can do that, and then your body will trust that the next day it will get up and do what it needs to do. And during the week, you'll make your classes at the gym or whatever, go for your walks and, drink your water and all of that type of stuff. And when you do that, you're creating that repetitive relationship with your body where it's like, okay, well, maybe, we even overindulged this weekend, but I trust her. She's back at it. Like she's not going to abandon me or like go off the rails. And I'm going to see like that consistency again in like two months or whatever. So like, if you're looking at the weeks ahead and you're like, Liz, honestly, there's a lot of socialization, well, then just tighten up your other habits that you're making. There's always time for something. Yep. There's always time to step back and make that better than choice, or go for a walk. Maybe you can't make your gym class, at 5:00 on Thursdays because there's after work gatherings for 2 or 3 weeks. Okay, well then you need to pick another time that something works. So you need to go for a walk at lunchtime or whatever that might be. Again, not to be repetitive, but that's that personal responsibility. And like you said in the beginning, so much of these actions is really what we're talking about. Actions, what we're putting into our body, how we're moving our body, comes from our mindset, comes from the way that we're thinking. And so to go into a season with a supported mindset, I made the decision that I'm going to care for myself in this way through the season, is helpful. Also to make sure that you are carving out time to care for your mental health, because as you said, if you're feeling blah, the last thing you're going to do is be like, let me go work out or let me do this. Like, no, that's usually not going to happen. So if you can find space in your life, whether it's with yourself, with other people, with things that make you feel good, to remind you how important your well-being is for your overall health, and it kind of flips back and forth. Like, your actions support your mindset drives your actions, or whatever. Yeah. So to just be observant of that relationship. And the last thing I want to say is it's okay to say no too. Like, I don't really drink, and so I'm at gatherings a lot, and I'm all set. I'll just have the sparkling water, and it can be or a mocktail or whatever. There was a time period that was challenging. I felt like I was like, whatever, like, but now I'm just like, why? Right? Like, we're all adults.
Yeah,
like,
why is that?
So why
do you feel bad for making the right decisions, right? But then I think that is a common.
Totally.
That is not, like, unfortunately, people come to me all the time and say, like, they're making the healthy choices, and then they're the ones that get made fun of.
Yes.
Now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's
yeah. There's like, what's that meme? Like, if you're eating healthy, like you're on a diet, and so people are like, why aren't you eating this or whatever? And it ultimately is what makes them feel better. It makes them feel more comfortable.
It's a defensive statement, I think. A lot of times.
But if you're like, no, there's really nothing on the menu that feels good, you eat before or after. It doesn't have to do with you not eating or not drinking or whatever. It's you making the decisions that feel best for you. So if you feel, even as a 30, 40, 50-year-old adult, the peer pressure to do something that ultimately you don't want to do, I encourage you to figure out how you're going to navigate that. And you're a full-grown adult. You can say, no, I'm all set. And it can be a period at the end of that. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to have a drinking problem not to drink. You don't need anything. It just doesn't feel good for your body. And maybe next week you will. Like, that is okay. Like,
and why do you have to explain it anyway? Right? You're not asking your friend that just had 4 vodka tonics that
why are you
what is wrong with you? Why are you drinking that much? Like, it shouldn't be that way. It should just be
personal choice.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people now are drinking mocktails or getting like the soda with a lime in it, just so that people think that they're drinking, right? But then it does stop the questions.
Totally.
But and speaking of drinking, there are like tips we should give on better drinking options, right?
Yeah. I mean, thankfully it is a lot more common now. And I think that there's a lot of alternatives. Also, just like any alternatives, you just want to be mindful of what those are.
Yes.
So I guess it's the choice of like, do you want people to think that you're kind of drinking or do you want to just feel like you have like something festive in your glass?
And if you're drinking, what are the better choices? Like, tequila and gin are better than the other ones. And like thinking about like vodka and soda with a squeeze of lime is going to be better than a sugary drink, right? But like a splash of cranberry can give it that festive look.
Yes.
And throwing some pomegranates in it can give it a little bit more. So like being mindful about what it is, especially if you are drinking more than one drink.
Yes.
And that it is something that you do and it's something that you know you're going to continue to do throughout the next few weeks, months.
Totally. Yeah. Drinks can really mess with your blood sugar. They can mess with your drinking, like anxiety. It's just like a lot of times we drink because we're stressed or I need a drink at the end of the day. But in fact, it really just sends your anxiousness and your whole internal system hormones on a wild ride. So
and isn't it funny how like if you hear like, oh, Janine and Liz said gin is healthy.
Yes.
Or gin was the better. Like I hear that all the time. Like, well, what's the healthiest alcohol?
Yes. Yeah. How much
I don't know
exactly?
if health and alcohol go in the same sentence, but the cleanest.
Yeah. Yes. Totally. And if you are a person that indulges and you love to have the cocktails or the food and all that stuff, that's your decision. The people who are not, don't ask the questions. Don't give them a hard time. Trust that they're doing what's best for them. It's probably at one point for people who are trying to kind of support their healthy lifestyle and what makes them feel best, probably a little uncomfortable to go to social gatherings, or maybe they compromise just to fit in, or, they have a cocktail when they really don't want to, or it's not the best thing for them because they don't want to be that not fun person. So if you're the person who is indulging, which is your choice, totally fine, just let people around you do what they want to do. I know a lot of times it's with the best intentions. Like, I want everyone to have fun. Everyone take a shot. Which shot? Who takes shots? But stuff like that.
Oh, there's still shots.
Yes. Or whatever that may be. But just, understand that we all kind of walk our own kind of path, and we all probably got it if, got a good decision making if we're allowed to kind of figure that out. Yeah. So hopefully this was helpful. Do you have anything, final things to add? Or
I just want everyone to have the healthiest and happiest and safest and peaceful holidays as they can. So
yes. Yeah. And like we said in the beginning, really these tips and the kind of this thought process can be put toward any time of kind of like off your schedule, or a little more celebration or indulging or whatever, ways that you can still feel your very best, because ultimately that is what this is all about, is feeling our best, enjoying food and enjoying people and having a good relationship with health. So hopefully this gives you some ideas as you move into the weeks ahead. We know that you can do a little bit of both and feel really good as you're moving through. So we wish you a great holiday. And if you have any questions or want to reach out with any thoughts or episode ideas as we go into 2025, which is wild. Shoot us an email, or of course reach us or find us on Instagram. It's already in you podcast at IG. Have a great holiday, guys.
Have a great holiday.